Hello, welcome back to the CashPT Lunch Hour. This is Aaron LeBauer, your host, and today my guest is Jim Heafner. And Jim and I go way back. He went through my program, the CashPT Blueprint. Jim is an educator. He works on the Student Physical Therapist blog. He's written a couple of books. He's got a cash practice in Boulder. He also likes yoga just like I do and is crushing it. So I've been working to find some other people who've been doing this for a while, who are doing some unique things. Jim's written some great books and I want to talk about that. So for all those reasons, and because I met Jim a few years ago at CSM in person, and he's a cool guy, and I didn't get to spend enough time with him then, I wanted to bring him on the show so we could hang out. So Jim, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. And it's great to connect again because it has been since CSM San Antonio, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so. It's been at least 2 years, I think. So that's awesome. Well, so let's start. I always start with like, why physical therapy? Because I want to know like what drove you into this? And then the next thing I want to know is like, what pushed you into starting your own cash practice? So they're kind of two questions, and we'll go from there.
Well, I think the first one, the why physical therapy, it was something that I kind of just stumbled. Well, I had the injuries kind of like everyone had. And then I went to physical therapy and I had a great PT, and I was always interested in the human body. And I was always a very active person growing up. And I was playing a ton of sports growing up. So it was kind of going from activity to activity. So that's kind of the typical story of how I got into it. And somehow from there, when I was in PT school and going through my undergraduate courses, I actually fully fell in love with the profession and fell in love with it. Was so much bigger and better than I thought it was going to be. So it was something that I assumed I was going to enjoy, but then actually completely fell in love with how much I'm enjoying it is incredible.
That's awesome. So, so what sport did you play that you got injured doing?
The first time I went to physical therapy, it was actually back in like middle school, and I was playing soccer and I injured my back. And it was it was tens and hot packs and, TRA strengthening. So that was a long time ago now, but that was more your basic, how we were doing PT 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So things are changing a bit now.
Yeah, definitely. Was it then you were like, oh, this might be for me? Or was it just a good experience that came around, and by the time it was time to figure out what you're going to major in college and what you're going to do after?
My passion for it really took off as my mom was always driving me to shadow people and figure out, do I want to go to med school? Do I want to be an athletic trainer or a physical therapist? And fortunately, as I was going through that process, I worked with a great PT. And then as I was going through PT school, I actually had thoracic outlet syndrome, venous thoracic outlet with the first rib section. And my PT, when I had VTOS, he was the one, and I was already in the program now, but he took it to the next level of really breaking things down in a way that I could understand. I could understand why I was having my pain. I could understand where the trajectory was. So that was the biggest experience that kind of taught me the most about wanting to be a PT.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so did you graduate and then go work in the mill and have a bad experience and go, okay, I got to start a cash practice? Or like, what was the experience? What was the turning point that you were like, it's this way or the highway?
Oh, I don't want to have like the quintessential story about because it's exactly kind of what happened. I worked for Concentra for 1.5 years, and I was pumping out patients and I was earning them a lot of money. And I was a clinic director, and I took our clinic. It was a lower one in the region, and then I made it one of the best ones in the region. And then quickly working my butt off right now. And all of a sudden that's the new productivity standard. So instead of being this kind of shining star, they're just like, oh, you're average now, and this is where the new standards are from here going forward. Yeah. And that really frustrated me because I saw all my work pay off and it was not rewarded.
Yeah. So you raised the bar, and then they said, okay, now you have to pass the bar again.
Yeah.
They raised the
standard. Exactly. And that experience, I've always, from the student physical therapist. I started that website back in PT school. So I always had a drive towards entrepreneurship, and I was always meeting with and interviewing other business owners, but I always thought I was going to go the insurance route. And then my buddy Chris Fox, who also does the student physical therapist, he started talking about you, Jared Carter, and how there's just an opportunity for a cash-based model.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing clinicals and seeing the headaches associated with insurance. And it was fairly quick after that I never looked back.
Yeah. So was it about like within 2 years or 3 years of graduating, you had started your practice?
It was 2.5 years. So I went down to Houston and did an orthopedic residency program. And then so after I earned my OCS, I worked in occupational medicine for 1.5 years. And then for the past 3.5 years now, I've had my own business.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago that we were chatting, and I was just starting up.
I know. That's crazy. What's been the number one thing that's you think made it possible for you to like get started and be as successful as you are?
As early on with the business, and I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We called our dermatologist, and the front desk person was so rude.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my wife because she is so just like stern. If something's making her mad, she's going to say, okay, we're just leaving the service. And it's like, she told that to the person. She's like, this is really hard to schedule. I don't want to go to your office anymore, and we're not going to come back. And the lady's like, oh, that's fine. So it was a terrible interaction on all sides. And I think the reason I was able to be successful early on is that I took this customer service piece that seems to be missing from a lot of insurance-based healthcare, and I put that as a top priority.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because last week or 3 weeks ago, no, it was last week, I picked up my daughter from summer camp, and she had fallen before summer camp and messed up her elbow, like tweaked her elbow, and we were like, it's fine. I picked her up and it wasn't extending all the way. So I'm like, okay, let's go in. I've got a friend who's an osteopathic sports medicine physician. Like, let's go see Rigby and get him to just look at it because I can't be objective with my own kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, hey, I want to make an appointment for Dr. Rigby. She goes, okay, what's your insurance? I'm like, wait a minute, the insurance isn't my concern. My concern is for my daughter. I don't care what the insurance is. Can we do that later? Can I just make sure I can get an appointment? And it was just like, I was about to like punch through
Seriously, like all you want to do is get the medical care, which is the reason you're there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what but that just shows how ingrained the system is with going that route.
Yeah.
Was your daughter okay?
Yeah, she's fine. I think she's got like she like did something radial head where it was just like either got stretched. And he's like, there might be a small fracture. We're not going to do anything different. After 3 weeks, it was, it's in better, but I still can't be I can't know objectively. Yes. She would let him actually test it and work on it, and she won't let me do that, and it's just like, when your kids get older, you'll know, like you'll, oh yeah, it's like, she was like, yeah, Daddy, it hurt, but I just let him do it. And I'm like, no, that's what you're supposed to let me do. But she wouldn't.
I could have saved us a lot of time if you would have let me do that at home.
I know. So, but yeah, she's fine. But it was just like that experience. Like my concern was for my daughter, and the person on the other end is like, concern is all about like, how are we going to, deal with the insurance payment? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's so far away from what I actually am called.
Yes. And fortunately, being in Boulder, Colorado, it's a pretty affluent community. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, people ask the question, do I take insurance? But when I say no, they're not alarmed. I feel like if I was doing the same business model in St. Louis, I would have to do things differently. St. Louis, where I grew up and went to PT school, I might have to do things differently because then I might get more pushback on the answer.
Do you think in Boulder, people are a little bit more educated about their body and physical health, where they're just really not expecting good quality care to be covered anyways?
They give me that with their verbals and nonverbal communication back to me, is saying, they're like, yeah, not as many people take insurance, or especially the people that they want to go to. Right. So, and they usually have had that experience of being being put in the factory and kind of given 10 minutes of hands-on stuff and then a sheet of
Yeah.
exercises.
Do they say, yeah, I could do that at home, or like I could do that at the gym? They gave me just stuff I could do.
Yes.
I already do at the gym. Like that's not going to solve my problem.
I don't mind hearing that because then they come see me and they think it's an incredible experience.
Right.
But it is unfortunate that that's how probably the majority of the system is forced to run.
Yeah. So, your wife teaches yoga, right?
She teaches bar.
She teaches bar. Okay, gotta remember.
Not a bartender. She
Yeah,
like bar.
yeah, which is
Part
like
of the
which
workout.
is the ballet kind of group training class thing. If people don't know,
Yes. And
BARR,
actually,
right?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
And then you guys both probably do yoga, but you're big into yoga too, because you've written a book on yoga,
yes,
right? Okay. So
that was the. Go
how'd
ahead.
you get it? I want to know, like, how'd you get into yoga? When was that? And how do you incorporate that in your practice? And like, what are you doing with that? Because I do it. I incorporate my practice. I know how I do it, but I'd like to know
Oh yeah.
how you do it, because most teachers who do yoga are women, and not many PTs who are incorporating yoga or written about yoga are
Yes.
men. And I used to go to classes here. I was the only guy in class.
Mm-hmm.
And these days, like I went to a class last week and there were actually 8 men in the class and 4 women. I was like, holy cow, things have changed in 10 years, 15 years.
That's great.
You know?
Well, and Boulder, probably it's maybe 50-50
Mhm.
or 60-40 women to men, because there is the yoga community here. It's a town of 110,000 people and there's 40 plus yoga studios. So there's a lot of yoga happening.
Yeah.
And I got into it actually when I was living down in Houston. So there's a lot more women in the classes down there because Houston doesn't do quite as much yoga, or maybe they do now. But that's how I first got into it. And I don't know how I was initially drawn to it. Maybe my roommate, when I was doing my residency down in Houston, was one of the first people to get me into it. But I have always appreciated the mind body connection with it, and then being able to internalize the things that I'm thinking and then also processing the things that I'm feeling in my body.
Mm-hmm.
What has helped me the most about the yoga practice is I can take I really internalize how a certain position or posture feels. And I can also relate that then to when someone has pain with a certain movement. It brings me back to a time where I might have experienced something similar as I was moving deep into a different posture.
Mm-hmm. Does it drive you crazy in a yoga class when someone says, "I'll do this to protect your back"?
There's, but taking it full circle, so then when I started the business, one of the first people I went and talked to were the owners of the yoga studio that I go to, the Yoga Pod.
Yeah.
And Jerry and Nicole, they sat down with me and told me how to helped me run a successful small business in town. And so then they put me on to their anatomy and injury training portion of the yoga teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started educating the yoga teachers who were then educating the community. So that was a cool trickle down effect of, fortunately, I'm trying not to hear those comments as much about protecting your back and things like that, because I should be the one that's educating them.
Right. That's the one thing. And I know, like, and we can we'll talk about this in a minute, because you've also written a book on pain, and it's the thing that I love about yoga is the mind-body connection. It's movement. I like to find classes that involve more extension than just a ton of flexion. But I can bring it to my patients and use it, because I can modify it and they can do these exercises anywhere. So now they have no excuse to say, Dr. LeBauer, I couldn't do the exercise. I forgot my band, I forgot my weight, I'm like, it's gravity based. So there's no excuse, but it's,
yes.
I go to a class or I see things online, and I think people go to yoga because it's one of the exercise modalities out there that helps people solve their pain problem more than like maybe CrossFit. Like, people don't go to CrossFit because my back hurts and I've been let down by the medical system, but they go to yoga for that. Would you agree?
Completely. Yeah,
Right?
let me go throw weights over my head because my back is hurting.
Right.
Just doesn't
I know, and I've seen more people get injured in yoga than in CrossFit.
Which is very ironic.
Right. It's ironic. I saw a woman break her toe because she didn't have the strength or mobility to step forward, and she broke her toe,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate. But I guess my question for you, and without even getting the background, I just know what you know. It's like, how do we get to the point where you and I can go to a yoga class and like, I'm still going to analyze people's movement, but not hear the fear avoidance messages in an exercise class. It's coming from a place of compassion, but it's the wrong message. Do you know what I mean?
I think it comes with more us getting out in the community and educating more on the forefront about movement and pain and the combination of those two together, and the resiliency of the human body.
Mm-hmm.
Because yoga instructors typically get good information on anatomy, and they have good information on breathing, and then they're more Eastern based things like the chakras and whatnot. But then they don't get as much on the pain science. Mm-hmm. And so and that's actually a good point for me when I go and do the next evening teaching thing for the yoga pod, that I should incorporate more pain science specifically. But what's also really tough is that those are 9-week programs. So learning anatomy is hard.
Right.
And then we start talking about the complex interactions that occur in the brain with pain
right.
But there's got to be ways to just dole down the message of not talking about specific anatomy as the cause of pain. Instead, they could just talk more about the strength of the body.
Right. So, I mean, here's like, we were coming up from a forward fold. It's like, protect your back as you come up, rather than like, hey, bend your back or create a strong spine or create, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just a different message. Like a different message of empowerment would be, like more
well,
helpful.
The book I wrote with Jared Hall, The Making Sense of Pain, it's all designed around the power of language. And I think the words we use, just as we're talking about, are so important to the overall message, and then how that person takes that message and uses it in their whole life. Mm-hmm. So if we do even tweak the words on, hey, your back is strong as you're coming out of this, doesn't matter how you move. Well, there's that's where it gets tricky, that there are ways to offload certain parts of the body as you're coming out of that position.
Right.
So
right. There, but and it's just, I've been doing yoga since I was in college, which is back in 94. I graduated in 96. I took my yoga class in 94. It's been a long time, and I've seen it, and it's seen it evolve, and I've seen these things, and I know that it's not just in yoga, it's in all group classes or training. And it's like, but to me, it's okay. How can I, how can I use this message in my own business to help my patients get a better outcome? And you absolutely do that. But how do we as physical therapists get this out to more individuals without trying to tell them about physical therapy, which they all think is hot packs, leg lifts, and ultrasound? Mm-hmm. But we need some other method of getting this message to people, so that it's like, you know what I mean? Like
more digestible.
Yeah, more digestible, and more like, oh, this is the way it is. Like, what I want to know, like, what is your experience, like the best way we can do that? Because I don't know if I know the answer or have all the tools.
I don't know the answer either, but I don't think the answer is purely going the pain science route, because I see a lot of ears turn down when we just start talking about the interaction of pain in the brain. We have to remember that pain is a processing of both of the inputs coming in, and then our ability to manage the output. So we're getting almost too heady, I think, in the profession, too cerebral, where we're talking about pain as it is a top-down process, but it's like we're disregarding the input that's allowing that top-down to happen.
Yeah. So what does this look like in your clinical practice? How are you incorporating, the pain science, yoga, your manual skills, everything you learned, PT? Like, what does it look like with a patient interaction, from beginning to end, even in some treatments?
Usually the first 5 minutes is a catch up, small talk. Let's just see how life is going, sort of thing. And I get a lot of good information about that, just to see where someone's at that day when they come into the clinic. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I have a standard set of movements that I take people through. If it's spine or lower quarter of any sort, I almost do cardinal plane, lumbar flexion, extension, rotation, and side bending or side glide type movement with most people, just to see how their whole body's moving. And that's on every visit. I just really want to see how someone shows up, like where they're holding tension and how their body's moving as they come in. And then I also will look at a squat and a lunge. And then from there, I take those components, and let's say someone is clearly offloading their right hip when they're squatting. Something is likely going on with the right hip where they don't want to load into that joint, or they don't want to put pressure into stay up and upright in their low back. So they're flexing out of their low back. So then I go and break down from this general functional movement to specifically honing in on those regions of the body. So then I'll do a specific hip type examination. And this is pretty quick. I'm just looking grossly at active range of motion, comparing side to side. I'll do the same with the low back. And then from there, we start educating on maybe they're not achieving certain aspects of movement, and plus the complexity of other stuff that's happening in their life. So we start bringing in the pain science piece of here's maybe why this is happening on a bigger level. Here's certain things that your body isn't achieving because of how you're holding the patterns. And then I use a graded exercise approach. So of gradually desensitizing the stimulus, the painful stimulus. So let's say they're having trouble with the squat. Well, we'll break it down to a TRX squat. I'll give them some assistance. Does that make it feel better? If not, we'll go down onto the table and just do both legs, knee to chest, mimicking the lower body aspect of the squat.
Yeah.
So, but the yoga part has helped me too, because with the patterning and understanding how we can change gravity in certain situations to use different muscles differently, it is with that. Do you see what I'm saying? How I try to break it down. I incorporate both the movement and biomechanics plus the pain science portion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason I'm asking is because, one, I want to know too, people ask me all the time, Aaron, well, what do you do that people are willing to pay so much for? Like, well, my first answer is, does it really matter? If I get them the result. My second answer is, well, here's these things I do, but there's a lot of different things that we can do. And, what I mean? So so it makes sense.
Can I answer that a little bit further then?
Yeah, please.
The why is the most important for me. So why they're having pain is what I focus almost all my energy on. Mm-hmm. And if that is coming from more of a biopsychosocial thing, I'll spend more time on that. If they seem to be pretty healthy in most aspects of life, and it's a movement thing or something I don't think is moving quite as well, so that's then causing a change in how they can process the pain, then we'll focus on that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But I spend a lot of time explaining to people why they're having the pain and showing them strategies of things that they can do that day when they leave to start feeling better. Yeah. And I write down what their top 3 things that we're going to work on. I take videos of them on their phone so they have the exercises. And I'm almost redundant about, do you understand why this pain is why you're currently experiencing this? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they really value that, because most people with the current medical model they have no idea what the problem is or why they're having it or what the possible solutions are. Yeah. So being realistic and being honest about what the cause of the pain is as simple as that is. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how do you explain that to people before they become your patient? Like how do you effectively get people to understand what it is that they can get from you that's different than the other options they have in Boulder? Because I know there's not only probably does everyone and their mother practice yoga, there are probably also a lot of massage therapists, chiros, PTs, options. So what are you doing that's unique, and how are you what's the word? Conveying that to people? Like,
I think fortunately now I've instilled a reputation of I'm going to get you better. Mm-hmm. And that's going to kind of be at all cost. And I'm willing to put in extra time and energy, even outside of the standard clinical hours, to help you out. So and this is where it would be fun to talk with you, maybe like in a separate conversation of practices that you're trying to get away from that you started early on. But a big difference with me is everyone has my cell phone number. This is my community of people, and I thrive on that. I love that it's my community, and I want them to feel like they can reach out to me at any time. But it's almost getting kind of a headache at certain times too, because a lot of people text me and ask me questions, and it's my personal number.
Right.
It's a back and forth. But from the beginning, I tried to show that commitment to, if you have questions, even if it's at 8 p.m. and the clinic's closed, ask me the question. Like, I'll get back to it as soon as I can. And I still think, when we were talking at the beginning about customer service, I make a point to make sure that everyone feels welcome in the clinic, that they feel safe in the clinic, and that they're going to get better. So that's like, and I'm not going to BS them on stuff. If I don't think I can treat it, especially like I'm busy enough now where I don't want that person to just be coming to see me just to pay me. Like, I want them to feel like they're getting results.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things it's like, I don't want to treat someone if I can't help you. But a lot of times people come to see me and no one else has been able to help them. And over the years, I realized when people say, I've been to everybody and no one's helped me and I still hurt, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure I can make a difference.
At least
like a sign.
Yeah. I know. I feel confident in that regard too. And I'm just curious, because I like to see what approach can I take differently that's going to resonate with that person to actually get them better, to have that switch.
Yeah.
Because I think our ability to use our education and language to change how they think about it, and even get them ready to put them in that state of changing for their own habits. I think PTs are primarily positioned for that.
Yeah. For me, in my experience, it started where people told me, Aaron, no one's ever touched me where I hurt. And you're the first person to touch me where I hurt. Isn't that incredible? And like, that was before I was a PT. I was doing massage therapy. I was like, wow, maybe I need, people had already been to PT and chiropractic and, seen their orthopedic surgeon. I was like, and then when I became a PT, I was like, so you've seen a couple orthopedic surgeons. Did they ever do this test with you? No. I'm just like, what is, but it's like the power of touch is pretty incredible. Even just acknowledging to people that I know where you hurt, right?
Yes. Oh, that alone has, so, and I'm not sure how you feel about, I do like a 20 for 20, so a 20-minute introduction for $20. It's kind of like a discovery session. And I've gotten more return business on that because they'll say their back hurts. So I go put my hands on their back where it hurts. And they say, that's the pain. Like, and it just baffles me that you can go see a neurosurgeon or a different practitioner who doesn't put their hands on them at all. And there's no connection of the patient feeling that pain because you're the one able to provoke it. And it builds in so much confidence right away as that person coming to see me then of they can help me because they've identified my problem.
Right. That's awesome. It's even like, it's like I can make someone, if I can make someone move and it hurts, like that's still not as powerful as me saying, when I press on it right here, is this it? And they go, yes. And I'm like, well, then I can help you if that's the case, and they go, yeah, that's it. It's like, right. I mean, I don't know. I think it's incredible. Like, so how do you take that and take them from there to the next step? And whether it's, and I'm not talking about your 20 for 20, like that part of the evaluation where you touch them and you say, here's where it is. And they go, oh my God, that's where it hurts. Like, what do you do next?
I even have a whiteboard in the clinic and I'll write down, okay, so left low back is hurting. Let's talk about why that region of your body is hurting. So we know this is the area where the pain is at. Maybe there is some local chemical inflammation, but why is that area receiving extra stress? So it's got to be something to do with maybe it's coming from, purely top-down process of how you're just manifesting the pain from stress and things in your life. Maybe it's a combination of that plus some hip and low, like things above and below either aren't strong enough or they're not providing the right input when you're going into certain movements, or there's too prolonged postures that are contributing to the over stress of that region of the body.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's getting down to, okay, this is the region of pain. Let's talk about the different possible causes around there that can be contributing to it.
Yeah. And then you make so you get the patient to understand what's happening.
Yes.
Then you make a plan with them probably to say, hey, here's how we're going to
treat it
and troubleshoot it. Yeah.
And that's because then that part is easy afterwards. It's you have the area of pain, you have the kind of 3 to 5 things that are contributing to their pain, lifestyle factors, hip mobility, whatever it might be. And then we can treat those. Like I'll say, okay, here's video number 1 of you doing it on your phone for your house. This is addressing what we wrote down on the board about how we're going to help improve your hip movement, which is going to help take away your low back pain. And it's just constantly connecting the dots of they can't do this because of this, and then this is going to get them back to whatever life activity they want to do.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned you do like a 20 for 20. So I'm assuming that's a $20 for 20 minutes, kind of like an early visit. Is this what you're doing in that visit? How do those go? And why'd you decide to do it for $20 instead of like maybe free or even a full price?
Oh, early on, people told me to never give anything away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I rarely do the 20 for 20 anymore. I took it off my website, and there's probably still a few flyers around somewhere that if they bring it in, I'll validate it.
Yeah.
But I just don't have the capacity, or I don't have the scheduling anymore to do it right now. So, but I chose 20 for 20 because I didn't want to give it away for free. So I wanted them to have to offer something up, and I needed more people in the door. So that 20 minutes was a way to, I would ask them a few questions. We would do a little bit of treatment. I would give them a thing or two to go home with. And it was quick. It was relatively a dirty, quick evaluation sort of thing. And then I say, if you come back, we're going to delve more into this, but hopefully this is going to get you off the ground at least. Yeah. And you have an idea of why this pain is occurring.
Yeah, that's awesome. And was that the thing that got you busy and converted a bunch of people to patients, or was there something else
that definitely was a big component. Moving from my original location after 1 year to the current gym that I'm in, where there's way more people, way more trainers, it's such a good referral outlet. That combination was the best. The 20 for 20 helped, but then really moving locations was key.
Yeah. So how did you build that relationship, and what were the things that you did that made that so successful? Because there's a lot of people that will move into a gym and the gym just basically ignores them, or they ask the wrong way probably.
Well, I made sure that I was a presence in the gym simply by working out and meeting the trainers regularly. So a big mistake that I've seen other trainers who have come through, because I've been at this gym for 2.5 years now, new people will come in and I'll try to work with, or like a massage therapist might be in the gym trying to make her brand there, his or her brand. And they are just staying in their office. Like they're not getting out and actually interacting with the people. So the biggest difference is early on, I was always upstairs. I would work out just to meet people sort of thing. It was great marketing and physical activity. So, and then anytime I had a good connection with a trainer, I would offer them a free session, completely free. Cause that is different than giving away free service. That's marketing.
Right. That's awesome. So, so let me go back. I want to be respectful of your time. I got a couple other questions to make sure that we get to. So you've written three books, right? So you've got
yes.
So you've got the Yoga Fix, Making Sense of Pain, and you have what's the other book? Yeah.
The first book I wrote was shortly after my residency program. And I found that the best part about doing the residency was my ability to efficiently do an examination and then translate that into treatment on day one. Yeah. And so I wrote a book called The Guide to Efficient Physical Therapy Examination. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But whatever. That was the first book I wrote, and actually people still buy that to this day. And it just breaks down how to quickly, efficiently, and safely do a lumbar exam, do a cervical exam, shoulder and knee. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and that one probably that was when you had the student physical therapist blog, and probably I think, right?
Yes.
Was that before the blog or after you started that blog?
That was after the blog, because the blog was the second year of PT school is when I started that.
Okay, awesome. And then tell me about, who's the Yoga Fix for? Is that for PTs, or is that more for people that are doing yoga or somebody else? What's that one all about?
That is more geared to people doing yoga. And I wrote it with a yoga teacher here in Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And we were seeing this disconnect between kind of like what you and I were talking about, the movement aspect of things, and then kind of the why injuries are actually occurring.
Yeah.
And so because it's more complex than just the movement. So we talk a little bit about the pain science aspect of things, but we break down yoga and movement. So we help people have a better understanding of why the movement, changing the movement might be important for certain things.
Yeah. Is it like someone has back pain, they think yoga is going to help them, and that's the book for them, or is it more helping the yoga the teachers understand here's what happens when you're doing this with your patients or with your clients?
It's more for yoga teachers. Anyone can pick it up and read it, but it's more for yoga teachers that really are people who want to understand the postures on a better level.
Yeah.
So then let's say you're having pain when you go, let's say you're just lying on your back or something, like, well, here's a different read. Here's what's happening from a biomechanical standpoint. And then here, and there's some other contributing factors with that.
Wow. That's awesome. And then your other book is with Jared Hall. It's on making sense of pain.
Yes.
Right. We were talking about that. So who's that for, and what's it about, and what's in there?
That is for clinicians to give to their patients.
Yeah.
So, or at least for clinicians, actually, it's for clinicians and the general public. I think clinicians can relate to it because it's going to the book has 50 analogies, metaphors, and stories on explaining pain.
Yeah.
And hopefully those stories can either be, you can hand the book to a patient and they can read one of them and be like, okay, that helps me understand why I'm having that nerve pain, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be for a clinician, or a great market has been the chronic pain market.
Yeah.
Where people want to know what's happening to them on a bigger level, and the current simple biomechanical explanations haven't solved the problem.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome. So you got 3 books. You got, I think you said one of them was published at OPTP.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, is that the pain book?
That is the pain book.
Okay. And so if people want that one, are these all on like Amazon or, links on OPTP? How do we?
Making Sense of Pain has a link on OPTP, and you can get that on Amazon.
Yeah.
The other 2 books are available through my website, the Heafner Health website.
Okay.
So they're all available. I didn't put those other 2 on Amazon simply because of it's not as lucrative, honestly, and it'd be a very similar read if you do it as a PDF or as an ebook.
Yeah.
Or as a Kindle ebook.
Right. Awesome. Well, what I want to know is like, what drove you to write 3 books and get one published? Like, where did that come from? Like, really, there's not many people doing that, who are also clinicians.
I really I think that goes back to the why. People need to understand why they're having the current issues that they're having when it comes to managing their body. And I don't think that some of the current resources break it down simply enough. Mm-hmm. So I'm always, and also this is, maybe you could say it's selfish on my part. Anytime I start writing a book, it's such great learning and exploration for me. So like I'm creating these Google Drive folders of every topical area, and I'm synthesizing the best information from each one. So it allows me to almost do an in-depth research review as I'm writing the book. So it's a part of it's a drive to learn to help people as a clinician. And then I've always had I love the idea of being able to help more than one person at a time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I love passive income, but who doesn't?
I know. Huh? We got to do a whole podcast episode on passive income soon. Gosh. But that's
the real struggle.
Yeah.
Like people, if we're talking about going to the next level financially, you either have to raise your prices, hire someone to treat more people, or you can start making money as you're still living the life you currently are living.
Right.
But you're not going to do that from 9 to 5 when you're treating people. So you got to stay up late and write some books or something.
Yeah, I know. And it's pretty awesome to wake up in the morning and see like a couple notifications that you sold some stuff.
Oh, that's the best feeling.
It's
Hmm.
pretty dope. So, Jim, well, we got to wind up. So if someone wants to find out more about you, we'll put the links to the books and your website in the show notes for sure. But if someone wants to find you online or get some more information about you and what you're doing, what you're up to, where can they go?
I think the best first route would be to go to heafnerhealth.com because that will have all the links to my social media. If you want to, you can email me directly at jim@heafnerhealth.com. Or I'm the founder of the Student Physical Therapist, which we still operate. So that's a great way if you're a PT looking for clinical advice. So those are the three main best routes.
Okay, awesome. And is there any other piece of advice or something that you think would be helpful for our listeners to know, or whether it's about starting a business, taking care of their patients, or writing books or whatever it is?
I don't want to get too philosophical, but I used to think that I was doing all this hard work to get to some destination. And now I realize that the hard work is the journey in itself. So you have to enjoy what you're doing. And because I was looking for some greater ends, like, I was doing all this work for some future purpose. And now I've realized that I'm much happier because I'm enjoying the process as I'm doing all this work to also create something, something great in the future. But if you find that you're getting bogged down and really just grinding out and not enjoying it, revisit the reason that you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And because I work a lot, but at the same time, I have complete freedom of my schedule, and that's the most important thing for me. So I love the work I do. It's not even really considered work in my opinion, but I am doing a lot of stuff. So it all comes back to happiness for me. And I know it's like Stu, but I'm very keen on if I'm doing something that's not fulfilling a later goal that I want to achieve, then I have to ask myself, why am I doing it?
Right. That's awesome. So you get to go to work. You don't have to go to work, right?
It is so cool. I went to England a month ago, and when I was coming home, I was like, I am excited to go see my community.
Yeah.
And it's so fulfilling on multiple levels. I'm financially successful. I'm having great, deep conversations with people all day long. I'm not just handing them stuff as I'm staring at a computer anymore. So I think purpose and fulfillment in life is key, like to being happy and being successful. And having a cash practice has given me the most resources to be successful in achieving that.
Dude, that's amazing. I'm stoked for you, man. That's really awesome.
What's beautiful about it is we had this conversation 3 years ago on how I needed help starting a practice, and now this is where we're at.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, thanks, Jim, for being here. And this is the CashPT Lunch Hour. This is Aaron LeBauer and Jim Heafner. And this is what I want you to do. If you got anything from this show today, please go leave us a 5-star rating and review. Maybe even screenshot the podcast thing on your phone. Share it with your friends. Let them know about it, especially anyone that this might be able to help and inspire. And other than that, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great one.